So 84% at the management level are from the hidden job market. And then Granovetter's famous for this. He's the guy who invented the concept of strength of weak ties. So you were just over next door in the LinkedIn presentation and you heard about weak ties. The people who give you the tip that leads to a position are not your closest friends. Okay? Here's this guy, he's my best buddy. We live in the same social world. We live in the same place. We have the same information. I don't need him to give me a tip. I need his cousin to give me a tip because that becomes exponentially more connections. The social scientists have looked at this. It's absolutely fascinating. You've heard that idea that we're 6 degrees from everybody on the planet. Okay, it turns out that's not true. Okay, so don't get involved in love with that data. It's true inside educated Western worlds. But it's not true when you start to step away from that. But you're really close to lots of people exponentially. You know who knows the most people? This is kind of a weird kind of datum. People in England who grow up in a certain size of town know as many as 10,000 people. 10,000 people. Now, we're not living in England, but you know 600 people. An adult American knows 600 people. So we'll get into what those people are like in just a minute. Who they are. Okay? Okay. So, how did it back up? Okay. Now, here's something I want to bring up. If you can reach across cultural lines, then you can have an exponential increase in your connections. And a very interesting thing is the alumni connections. Alumni allow poor, recent college graduates to connect with rich and powerful people who can help them. And they'll actually take your call. That is so weird. Try that in the general world. Just call up somebody and say, hey, I understand you're rich and powerful. I'd like to talk to you. They're like, don't get my number. Okay, call up and say, hey, I'm a horned frog. Oh, wow, that's great. How are those, what do you call them? Do you call them horned frogs? Really? Do they say, how are those frogs doing? Or? No? Do they say horned frogs each time? Okay, how are those horned frogs doing? And you have that connection. So I think this is something you need to take advantage of. Now, Granovetter's work is a little older. This work is renewed every year. This is a very, very robust data set. Just so you know it, this is approximately 300 times as much data as you need to establish the findings of this data. This is put out by Career Crossroads. Jerry Crispin and Mark Mailer do this every single year. This is the most robust data you'll ever see, and this is what they find. 30% of new hires come from referrals. You want to be a referral. Okay? You want somebody to own you and refer you. And you can use LinkedIn to find people that went to TCU that are at any company in America and then call them up and say, hey, I'm applying for a position. I wonder if you would vouch for me to be a referral for me. And why would they do that? Not just a TCU connection, by the way. They would also do it because they receive a reward between $300,000 and $5,000 for each hire. So lots of people refer anybody because I want the money. Okay, so corporate websites, 22%. That's an interesting example. I could go into why that's complicated. Some of the corporate websites, the people are there because of hidden job market reasons, and some of them are not. Third-party job boards are like Indeed and Dice, Monster, Career Builder. Look at college recruiting, 4%. Print ads. So college recruiting is only 4%. Print ads are still 4%. So not much big activity there. Okay. Here's the same data with a different look. Which one do you like best? Let's vote. Who likes the pie better? Okay. Who likes bar graphs? It's easier to understand. I'll just leave them both in there. It's got the same. It's just the same data. It's just there's more color, I think. Okay. I already said this. Now I want you to try a totally different way of finding a job. And I want you to decide what kind of job that you want and go out and look for that job. Instead of waiting for some employer to post a position and you say to yourself, oh, I could do that. Well, so could 500 other people, and they can all do it a little bit better than you. So I want you to just decide what kind of job you're after. I'll teach you how to get those. Now, as a kind of a test, I want you to think of the last job that you got. Let's make it official. Make it the last full-time job that you had. How many of you have had a full-time job in the past at some point? Interesting. Okay. Now, I want you to think about how you got that job. And I want you to think about the first link in the chain. Okay, so if you, a friend told you to go talk to somebody, the first link is a human. If a friend told you to go to a database and apply, the first link is still human. If you were searching on the internet and you found a database and you applied to it, then the first connection is a database. In other words, it's not a human. Okay, so let's just, by show of hands, the first link was actually a human. Take a look around the room. Okay, now, the first link was a database. Wow. I think that says something. Thank you. This is really interesting too. This is something people need to know. You have a 2/3 chance of getting a job if you can get 10 of your friends to introduce you to their boss. That's vastly different than applying for 500 and 600 openings. If you can just get 10 of your friends to introduce you to their boss, you have a 2/3 chance. And people always say, well, why don't we have a full chance? There's some duds in this world, my friends. There's some people out there that could be introduced to 100 bosses and none of them would bite. Okay? But if you're not a dud, I think you can be relatively confident that if you can get 10 of your friends to simply introduce you to their boss, you're in business.